Step 3. Let's hope this one's uneventful.
The Navy announces that Wake Island is probably captured by the enemy. And now it is disclosed that fewer than 400 Marines held Wake Island for at least 14 days against heavy Japanese attacks. The Marines had...
Good day, and welcome back to Mike's Radio Repair and Restoration. Today we're going to get into step 3 of a plan I have put together for restoring radios. It's a series of steps put out in a logical, simple fashion for the new person to follow to restore a radio. So far on this radio, we've done step 1, step 2, and now we're on to step 3. And step 3 is simply replacing the bad wax paper or oil-filled type of capacitors. This is a much more fun portion of the job than the previous 2 steps. Those were the hard lifting and the ones that I don't particularly enjoy as much as this step. I had a question from a user about, well, what do we change? What are we doing? What's what? So I'm just going to go into a little bit of a tutorial about the different types of capacitors that you'll see in these sets and what we replace them with, so that it kind of clears up that air, and then we'll get into actually doing the physical work. So I'll reposition the camera so you can see what's going on. Okay, I've laid out some capacitors here that I've removed from other radios just as a bit of a show and tell to give you an idea of what we're looking for and what we're going after and what we're going to replace and why we're going to replace it in this step. These guys here, including this one here, are the very old wax paper capacitors, and they're just that. They're a couple of pieces of foil separated by paper, soaked in wax. And the whole concept of a capacitor is to allow AC to cross them, or radio waves, and block DC. And when the paper goes dry or the wax begins to fail, some of these have 300 volts on them or more, they can short out, they can actually leak a little bit of DC. They're designed to block that DC, and when the insulation material in them goes bad, which is extremely common with this type of capacitor, of course it can cause a malfunction in the circuit all the way up to damage, including like red plating a tube or burning out an IF transformer. So these are the initial wax paper ones. Now these are other here, I guess they call them oil filled. These are not that much better, certainly not the bumblebees. These ones that are black with the stripes on them, they look like gigantic resistors. These are bumblebees, is what they call them. There's other molded plastic ones here that are oil filled, that are old. They cause problems, not so much as the ones with the wax, other than the bumblebees. The bumblebees are just bad. But these are old technology. This is you don't turn the set on until we replace them. So I'm going to reposition the camera so we can look in the back of this set and talk a little bit more about that. But just before we get on with that, this important safety message. A quick word about safety. There are dangerous all the way up to lethal voltages inside these sets. Please take all the necessary steps to protect your safety, and if you're following along at home, you do so at your own risk. Okay, I'm kind of zoomed out for a broader view here, just so we can quickly see some of the things here now. Here's some of these oil caps. There's one here, there's one here, there's a big one there, there's another 2 here, and so on. As we go up, we can see them tucked in here. These just cause grief and they have to be changed. So as I've stated before many times, there are different types of capacitors. Okay, we're not talking about electrolytics, which are polarized. Those are really critical for going bad, and we immediately, without question, replace them all. These tubular ones, wax paper, or these molded oils, immediately get replaced. We don't question that at all. The 2 types that we leave are the micas. I don't know, there's some micas here. You can't really see them well here. But when you look at them on the face, they got dots like a domino, and they could be a deeper red or a black or a brown color like this. Maybe I'll see if I can find them. I can show you. Now this radio has a ceramic disc capacitor in it, only one, and it's right up here. It's a little round ceramic disc. Why Hallicrafters chose to deploy that there, I'll never know, because in all previous designs it was just a regular film cap. That one, normally you don't replace disc capacitors unless you suspect they're bad or they test bad. Like if you open up a Hammerland receiver, you're going to see they're not generally full of these oil or wax paper type capacitors. You're going to see they're mostly full of disc capacitors and silver micas. So there's usually not a lot to do in Hammerlands, but in this case, Hallicrafters used one. Now, when I look at the back of this, you can see, I don't know if you can see on camera, there's 3 black dots. I don't know if it's carbon tracing or what's going on, but there's certainly a pattern of that on the back of that as well. So I'm, out of abundance of caution, I'm going to change it. Although it tests okay, but that doesn't test it under a 360 volt load or whatever the case may be, because it is part of that circuit on the power side of that. So now I do some things. Now this is an advanced concept. If you take out, say, a Bumblebee and it's a 0.01 at 600 volts, it's quite happy to replace it with a 0.01 at 650 volts. And generally, as you know, if that's what was there, that's what you can put back. And you might say, well, what's that? We replace them with modern film caps. And this one here is 0.0022 at 630 volts. Let me see if I got the other example here. These ones are black. These ones are at 0.033 at 630 volts. These are modern film caps, and this is what we're using to replace these old guys here. I have a video of that in the members section called, where I get my stuff from. That's very informative as to where to buy this stuff and buy it quite affordably. Now, the advanced concept I want to throw at you here is most of these are bypassing the ground type of capacitors, and any capacitor that has RF flowing through it, that was this type of a capacitor, this wax paper type of thing, or a Bumblebee, I replace with a metallized polyester type of ordeal. I don't know if that's the right term for them. I know they're metallized. People call them chiclets. I've called them chiclets for a million years. And they're usually fairly highly rated in voltage. Like this one is 0.01 at 600 volts. 1600 volts. So that's quite high. They're a little better than the films. And I've replaced one here already just to show you. I put a chiclet in here, and it's 0.01. And it's part of the BFO circuit. And there's RF flowing through it. And there was a Bumblebee there that was tested very leaky. And the reason why I put that in there is because there's RF flowing through it. And the more of a stable capacitor you have in that oscillator circuit, the more stable that oscillator circuit becomes. So I chose to put something a little better. You don't have to do it. I just do. It just works out a little better, Me, maybe my OCD and whatnot, but maybe when you get to an advanced stage, you might want to consider that. There's another one up here. There's another Bumblebee. I think it's another 0.01 that RF is flowing through that will get the chiclet touch. So that's kind of what the goal is here with this whole mission. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. Of course, I've already done all around the audio tube. These are all new that you can see here. These are the modern films. There's a modern electrolytic. They're done already. Here's another. What have I got? Oh, I put a chiclet in there because that was rated at 1,000 volts. So my modern films weren't rated. They're rated at 630. So I put a 1,600 volt. I think it's a 0.02. I've forgotten now. whatever it was. It's in the manual. It was rated at 1,000 volts, so I put a chiclet in that was rated at 1,600 volts. So that's ample. So you got to, of course, look at what the specification is and replace it with a very similar spec. A 0.05 in one of these is now replaced with a 0.047. It's close enough. They don't really make 0.05s anymore, you know what I mean? So you might run into that, but don't panic. Just replace it with a 0.047. What else can I tell you? That's pretty straightforward. Now, a lot of people don't, but I do. I'm a stickler for using Teflon, what's called spaghetti. And again, you can see this where you get this in my Where I Buy Stuff video in the members section. It's Teflon, so it doesn't burn, and it just protects leads that don't touch. Nothing touches. Like if this was me and I was putting this resistor in with these big long runs here and other wires running underneath, I would be for sure protecting this with Teflon. It just makes a nice job of it. I've done it all down here. It's all been done with Teflon spaghetti. So wherever I feel I need protection, there'll be Teflon when I replace these caps. So I think that is about it before we get going here. So I'm just going to start from the bottom up, probably these guys here and this fella, and work my way up to the top. And I think pretty much everything I see here, other than there's one or two for sure, this one, and I believe there's another one with RF flowing through it. It could be this guy here. They'll be replaced with a little bit higher class, higher performance chiclets. And I think that's going to be pretty good. So that's what I'm going to do. Start from the bottom, and I'll come back a few times as I'm progressing along, and as per usual, bring you up to speed. Okay, well, I'm getting close to being halfway through. I've changed all these fellas here to 4-6. That equates to this fella, this one, and these three here. Going pretty easy. Change them all. Nothing special really to report, but just to give you an idea here, this is a 0.1 microfarad at 600 volts. And you can see it's quite large. It gets replaced with this little wee yellow guy here. It's quite a difference in size. Same with this. Quite a difference in size. So it frees up quite a bit of chassis space. So again, nothing exciting going on here. Spaghetti used where I had to use it. And comes in big coils like that. It's easy to cut with a little pair of nippers and slip on the wire, protect to make sure nothing shorts out. So I think I'm going to start working around here. These ones are kind of sort of tight in to do, but they won't present a problem. You just have to slow down and do one at a time. Clip a whole bunch out of them. You may forget where you were or get it too far ahead of yourself. I just do one lead at a time. If this is my next capacitor, he attaches to here, so I'd be apt to take this lead off and bring him back, start the new one, and then attach the next lead. It's not like a big deal. It's not hard. It's a cakewalk. It's easy. It's a breeze. And this makes such a difference in the performance of the radio that even if the caps aren't out and out bad, they could be a little bit leaky or lossy or other problems. The loss of performance is usually pretty big. So I'll carry on, and I'll come back with the next update. Well, that's it. We're recapped completely. That's all done. So we last left off here. I've done upwards. The only notable things was this a disc cap here. I've changed to the chiclet. The disc cap once cut out a circuit. It's supposed to be 0.02. It's testing at 0.014, so it was quite a bit out of range. This one tests bang on. It's got a higher voltage rating, probably less drift, so it can sit in there. And this is the one that passes RF. Instead of putting in a film capacitor, I put in the nice chiclet as well to try to ease up on the drifting a little bit of these old girls like to do. So everything, like I said, is done all the way up to here. I mean, we've got 2, 4, 6, 10, 12, 14 caps, plus this is 15 all in total. Not such a bad job. At this point, you could probably put the tubes in it and turn it on, but I'm not going to do that till the end of the next step, because the next step is going to be going through all of the resistors one at a time. And I'm kind of concerned. I know that there's a few out of range down here, and everyone I seemed to clip onto was a little bit out of range. So I'm hoping that this is not a a dump it out and replace them all, but let's hope not. Let's hope that there's a few, it depends. Sometimes there's none, sometimes there's 102, and sometimes there's a bunch. So I haven't had a bunch one in a long time, so maybe that's about to catch up with me. So at this point, this ends this step, and I guess the end of it's the end of the step here. I've had several users ask me to show me our birds or introduce our birds. So I'm going to just throw a few pictures up of our birds and the bird's keeper after this. So if you're not interested, just maybe tune out at this point. But if not, you can see what's making all the squawking in the background. So until next time, thanks for tuning in. Please consider subscribing. We could really use your help. And if you've got a few spare bucks, hey, join the channel. We've got some great perks for you. We've got some great videos up in the member section that will help you along in your career of restoring radios. So again, until then, thank you very kindly, and we'll see you again. Well, this is my wife's #1 bird, the African Grey by the name of Sarah. She's certainly on the top few list for making noise that you hear on her videos. This is also Sarah. Also Sarah. This is the bird keeper. This is my wife, Mrs. Mike's Radio Repair and Restoration. We know her as our commanding officer, and some may understand her as she who must be obeyed. And this is the secondary noisemaker. This is Sammy. He's not tame. He's a rescue. But nevertheless, he's fun to have around. He's a good bird. And this handsome fellow is Freddy. He's a cockatoo. This is also Freddy. There's another cockatoo, but this is Patty. I call her Chatty Patty because she's always mumbling about something. And this is Patty with She Who Must Be Obeyed. And this fella's kind of a special story. We raised him from an egg. His parents laid an egg prior to us putting a nesting box in there, and we put the egg quickly into an incubator and brought him up that way. He's quite a cuddly fellow. Here he is at just a couple of hours old, and we kept him as he grew up and grew feathers in a nice warm incubator and fed him every 4 hours around the clock for 18 weeks, which I'll never forget. And this is his parents, Amy and Sheldon. And this curmudgeon is Chester, another blue gold macaw. And as you can see, we have quite a few birds, or at least my wife does anyway. So this is where all the noise comes from. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.